What's up, y'all? Merry Christmas. It is the day of our Savior's birth, the year of our Lord 2021.
Tell us about the roots of this holiday. I don't think I talked about Hanukkah this year.
No, we didn't mention it.
I forgot to say Happy Hanukkah during Hanukkah.
We also forgot to say Merry Kwanzaa. Really slipping on our holidays. I mean, it's we all know what it is. The reason for the season, capitalism. You gotta go buy a bunch of shit that we don't need, and that we'll probably throw away quite quickly afterwards. I mean, they a lot of the imagery stolen from paganism, Christmas trees, the timing. Scholars think that Jesus' birth was probably in the summer. That's a common thing people like to say, and the reason that they put it in December is because it's right around the solstice, which was the time of, like we were just talking about, a big pagan holiday.
Why do scholars think that Jesus' birth was in the summer?
Based on like the timing of I believe like how it was timed with the census, because the reason that he was born in a manger in Bethlehem, according to the Bible, is because Joseph had to go report for the census.
Okay.
So it's like, I can't give you all the details. I'm not a biblical scholar, but that's basically based on some of those things.
That's a pretty good explanation.
Yeah,
actually.
based on some of those things is why they think so. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like a lot of things, Christians trying to root out paganism basically adopted a lot of it, or at least a lot of the imagery, to shift people away from their false idols to the one true God.
You mean the Trinity?
God in three persons, blessed Trinity. It's a classic Christian song, in case you didn't know.
It's confusing to me. I know far less about Christianity than you.
Well, it's confusing to Christians too, but what most people say is that it's kind of like an egg. Like you have the yolk, the white, and the shell, and it's all one egg. It's all the same entity, but it's like in three parts. But yeah, it's kind of strange that the Trinity is its own Father and its own Son.
What about this Holy Spirit thing?
The Holy Spirit is the part that lives inside of us. So you have God the Father, which is like the God of Abraham and Isaac, the classic Jewish Yahweh, as Christians like to say when they try to connect it to Judaism, because Christians really like to co-opt that.
So we're not allowed to enunciate that, period.
Yeah, but Christians say it a lot. And then Jesus obviously is supposed to be God, but also God's Son that came to earth and died for people's sins.
Okay.
And then the Holy Spirit is like when you repent of your sins and like accept Jesus into your heart or whatever. It's interesting because Jesus doesn't come into your heart. It's supposed to be the Holy Spirit. So,
well, for Judaism, at least rabbinic Judaism believes, and when I say rabbinic, I mean accepting the Talmud as the additional law that was not imparted with the original Torah or Tanakh.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a spark of God in each soul, and I suppose that would kind of be like parallel with this Holy Spirit idea.
Yeah, we also have people believe in like there's so many little Christian sects that people believe different stuff, but the idea of like Adam and Eve, like the breath of God is in us or whatever, because he breathe life into humans. What was up? What did you say?
I'm gonna find. I taught a class one time and I forgot all of the details, but it was about the roots of Christianity and like kind of some of the pagan origins, which I thought were really interesting. Let me see if I can find it in the next 5 seconds.
It is interesting. I was reading a little bit the other day about.
I do.
About how Catholic priests were like they have the I was like on some weird rabbit hole on the internet, and they were talking about how one of the reasons that they made priests be celibate in the Catholic Church was because they were just banging like everyone in town because they're like so powerful.
I don't want to say the wrong thing here, so I'm just not going to say anything to that.
It kind of reminds me also of yeah, I mean there were a lot of like monks and stuff that were doing stuff. I mean the classic example is what's his name? I can't think of his name now. From Russia, that was good friends with the Tsar and Tsarina. They call him the Black Monk.
Oh, Karl Marx.
Starts with an R, but I can't think of it.
Rasputin.
Yeah, there you go, Rasputin. Yeah, his story is crazy. He's like a mix of like old pagan traditions and then Christianity.
Well, that's those Eastern Orthodox traditions.
Yeah, that is a fascinating story from history of his like weird powers. And the reason I thought of that is because he was banging everyone in town. He was just like this dirty peasant that like wandered into town, and because all royal families are insanely inbred, the Tsar and Tsarina's child was a hemophiliac, and he was like the only one that could fix it. But they mostly think it was because the doctors would prescribe
mercury.
Well, like willow bark, basically, and things
aspirin.
like that. So that early aspirin, and aspirin is a blood thinner, so it would make the hemophilia worse. And so he would basically always come in and he would just say, "Leave the boy alone. I'll take care of it." And he probably didn't do anything, but just that in and of itself helped the boy get better. And so they like literally he was banished so many times because he would just say nasty stuff like in these big dinners and like embarrass the royal family, and they would banish him to like Siberia, and then they'd like write letters to him, be like, "Please come back, like the boy's sick, blah blah blah." And then obviously there's the story of his death where they poisoned him with like enough poison to kill like a horse, and he like just didn't die. He's just like drinking alcohol and eating cupcakes filled with cyanide. And then they like shot him 3 times and tied him up and threw him in a frozen river. And when they found his dead body, he was like untied and stuff. So they like think that he like lived through like most of that and then eventually drowned. Or actually, I think there's some stories that say his lungs weren't filled with water. So like he died of exposure or something. But anyway, different accounts. But that is a fascinating story.
I had heard a little bit about that, but I forgot some of the details.
It's really rad. There's a lot more details, obviously. Like his time in court is hilarious to read about because he just goes to these like schwanky parties and he'll just be like, he'll just basically like go up to men and be like, "You're a pussy," and he'll like go up to women and be like, "Nice tits." It's just like,
but why?
Because he was like a poor like peasant, so he's just like, he knew he had like power, so he just did whatever he wanted. He would just get drunk and hire prostitutes all the time.
This is interesting. I before I forget, because I'm a proud vegetarian. I've been going to this vegetarian club at school, which is like
the Buddhist club.
Yeah, the Buddhist club, and basically what the guy was saying recently is like that there's a lot of cults around in Taiwan, like Buddhist cults, and he said basically the best way. This is from my neighbor that's going to be there tonight.
Okay.
The best way to pick out like people who are trying to do evil in Buddhism is to find out the celibate ones. Basically the ones who get rid of their family, who don't have any relations with anyone, and just separate themselves and devote their entire lives, separate from family, separate from children, separate from wives, all that stuff. That's how you know that someone is truly interested in like finding enlightenment.
Nirvana. That is interesting. But I mean, that's kind of the idea, isn't it? That you just kind of shun everything else. And I mean, it's the same thing with like Christian monks, and also for like priests and nuns. It's the kind of this idea that you devote yourself wholly to God.
I guess so. Holy.
I'm not saying it's necessarily even a good idea, but I think that is the idea behind it.
Not for me to judge. Here, I'll give you some of the notes, and I will paraphrase them so that I'm not doing any copyright infringement. So there are 12 days of Christmas, which I don't know if you can explain. And at the end is what's called the Epiphany or Three Kings Day, which is when the 3 wise men first saw the baby Jesus and brought him gifts.
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, the hottest items this holiday season.
And apparently that's a separate holiday in like Catholic countries. So Spain, Puerto Rico, being a Catholic country, and France will all like have special traditions for this Three Kings Day.
Yeah, the differences in celebrations between Christians and or Protestants and Catholics is interesting too. Like most Protestants don't do things like Ash Wednesday and stuff either.
I don't know what any of these things are. It's all going right over my head.
Well, like, I mean, Lent and stuff. Do you know about Lent?
Not really. I know you're supposed to give some up.
Yeah, it's the 40 days before Easter Sunday. But Christians are too capitalist. We have it worn, I should say Protestants have it tied into the fabric of our being, so we can't give stuff up like that.
No sacrifices.
Yeah, just don't sacrifice nothing.
What they say is the tie-in of the Winter Solstice. So the Winter Solstice, the original traditions were about lighting bonfires and candles to coax back the sun. I did a really poor job organizing this lesson because I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of random factoids that are disconnected here.
Facts.
Here's another one about what they call St. Nicholas Day, which is the one who inspired Santa Claus, who gave all of his money to the needy and was known for his compassion for children.
Kris Kringle.
And he died December 6th, 343 AD. And that's like already a separate holiday, St. Nicholas Day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm missing some of the pagan things, but I think I heard the same thing basically as you, which is that in order to try and get the greater Roman Empire, in order to try and lure some of these people in, they just kind of allowed them to integrate some of these traditions into Christianity as such.
Yeah, they would do that a lot. That was kind of a classic tactic of the Roman Empire, was kind of to let people hold on to like some parts of their culture and not like try to do these cultural genocides. And that's why they were able to expand so much throughout the world before the empire fell.
That's crazy, man. Oh, I have one for Hanukkah really fast also. Let's see. I think I just closed it. No, it's still open. So Hanukkah was celebrating 2nd century BCE when the Seleucid Seleucid. Sorry, there's a crack in my screen. So the Seleucid Greek Empire was in control of Israel, and they took the Great Temple and they defiled it and then installed an altar to Zeus and started sacrificing pigs in the middle of the temple. So there was a Jewish rebellion led by the Maccabees who took over the temple, and they built an altar. After they won the war, they built an altar. And the miracle, I always forget the details of this, but basically the reason that it's like 8 days is because there's supposed to be like an ever-burning candle. I think this goes back to the original tabernacle. And in the tabernacle, there's like a candle that's never ever supposed to go out.
Right.
And the idea here is that they had like a very tiny amount of oil they needed. They needed time to process it, but that the tiny amount of oil that they had after they retook the temple lasted them for 8 days, which is the time they needed to like harvest the olives and process new oil for it.
Yeah, I've heard that story in church before.
Really?
Yeah, they talk about it. Like I said, Christians really like to pretend like Christians and Jews are basically the same thing.
It's not even a biblical holiday. This is like a Jewish
I know
holiday.
It's the funny thing is like most Christians, if they like really think about like when they think about Jewish holidays, probably one of the very few they could name is Hanukkah, and it's not even like a high holiday.
It's not. Well, it's technically not a holiday at all. I mean, when we say holiday, we're using the term loosely. It's like
right.
The holidays actually prescribed in the religion by the Torah do not include this one.
So it's like a cultural holiday.
Exactly. It's like President's Day.
No one celebrates that one either.
Nobody gets President's Day off, right?
I don't think so.
Exactly. That's the point.
Well, now there's like a holiday every day. It's like a Siamese Cats Appreciation Day and shit. There's always something. Just like International Dogs Day. It's like, who came up with this? Who decided that this is a holiday? And it's not a holiday if we don't get time off for it.
Jesus.
Javis.
No, I'm saying Jesus decided it.
Oh. Well.
I like the Bernie Sanders tweet today. No, Merry Christmas. His tweet today was, Organized labor got you the weekend off.
I love it. I love it. It's good stuff. That's
I don't like that.
all the I haven't it's funny because I haven't seen as much war on Christmas stuff, and I saw an interview recently with Trump and Mike Huckabee, where Trump is basically Huckster. Trump is taking credit for the fact that we all say Merry Christmas again. He's like, before I got into office, no one was saying it. Everyone's using all the imagery. They're using snowflakes. They're using red and green, but they don't say happy. They would say Happy Holidays. Now, what does everyone say, folks? We all say Merry Christmas again. It's so nonsensical.
What do you say? Because most Taiwanese people aren't Christians, so I feel awkward. They're like, Merry Christmas. I'm like, I'm not Christian, and you're not Christian. So,
well, just like, I mean, a lot of people celebrate Christmas. I know people who are like Muslim that celebrate Christmas. So
I don't understand that because they asked me today because I went in to pick up a package, and I was like, in America, at least when I was growing up, to us we considered it a religious holiday, and therefore we didn't celebrate it. Like, I mean, I would, because my one side of my family is Catholic, so we would celebrate it with them. But like in my nuclear family, like just my parents, my sister, we didn't really celebrate it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's really been like an actual like Christian holiday for a long time. I think it's been co-opted by, like I said, capitalism.
I wonder if they celebrate it in Israel or in Muslim countries that are like strictly Muslim.
That's hard to say. I think
like Turkey. I wonder. I should have asked our Turkish correspondent.
Yeah, I mean they definitely. I mean, they celebrate in Taiwan. Taiwan is very not Christian.
But because there's no issues between Christianity and any other religion, so I don't think they have those kinds of like biases.
For sure,
And also they don't, because there are so few Christians and they have no connection to it. They don't see it as a religious holiday. They don't really understand the full context of it.
Yeah, they see it just like Americans do as a shopping holiday. Time to get discounts for
Veterans Day.
Discounts on clothes. That's why I went to. I went to school today, and I asked all the students like what they're gonna do, and most of them were like, "Go home and play video games or go shopping." Like that's what everyone's gonna do. So it's I don't know. It's fine. It's whatever. I mean, I think we should try to be less capitalist if we can, but I don't know. I don't think it's the biggest deal. If people want to go have a shopping holiday, I think that's fine as long as we don't get carried away.
Let's just call it what it is, though. It's just Jack Ma's Singles Day.
yeah, exactly.
Because if you don't shop, you're gonna be single forever. That's the idea.
The red and green capitalism
or maybe
day.
If you shop too much, you will stay single forever.
Yeah, we gotta keep Jack Ma in the red.
By red, you mean the internment camp, right?
I was thinking the fun. Well, that's where he's gonna stay as long as Xi Jinping's in power, probably.
You mean under house arrest, under the CCP thought police control?
Gotta keep him quiet. Well, I thought that this is a strange aside, but when I said red and green, it made me keep him in the red. It made me think about how in Taiwan the like red and green of the stock market is flipped, which is weird to me.
It is weird.
Just a weird side fact. It was strange. One of my students was looking at stocks the other day.
Ugh, why?
I don't know. He obviously isn't investing. It came up on the side of his thing, and he's just asking me what all the ticker names are, because they're all like abbreviations. So he's like asking me like, what is this one? What is this one? And I'm like, one, I don't know most of these, but the ones I do. And two, I was like, he's like, I'm thinking about like, I want to buy some stocks. And I was like, just know that you're gambling. Know that this is just
recently. Can you guess which company? Jack Ma loves it. So does Terry Cool.
TSMC.
I'm joking.
Was it DD?
It's consistent with my values. What is DD?
That's the ride sharing app.
Oh, DD.
Yeah. DD. It's consistent with your values. Oh, Raytheon.
You got it. Beyond Meat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just as long as you don't buy that communist Clucker's chicken or whatever the hell that. What is it? The No Evil Foods.
Anything that with the word "no evil" in it sounds evil.
It is evil. I wrote that article. People can go check it out. They're like a union busting. Like they have all these names where they have like Like I said, it's like it'll be like communist fried chicken, like vegan chicken, and like all this like socialist / communist like naming and ideology, and they were literally busting unions inside their factory. So it's nonsense, but it's funny. But yeah, I think that's a fair enough one. I wonder if there will be more proliferation of those faux meats in Taiwan.
I think that's connected to in a lot of ways to COVID, because since COVID broke out, faux meat companies have not been doing particularly well, and I think because people in general care less about other people, care less about the environment, and care less about their own lives.
Yeah, I think that's probably somewhat true.
Which are like, it's like the triple blow.
Well, it's also it's like impossible to ship stuff right now because of Mayor Pete. All the ships waiting outside the harbor in California.
I mean, those things are mostly manufactured in the U.S. for U.S. consumers. They just...
Yeah, the only place I've ever seen any of those in Taiwan is at Costco. But Taiwan has its own, like, faux meats.
Yeah.
I mean, just like that everyone kind of eats, and it isn't a big deal. Which is funny to me how, like...
I think Beyond Meat is really delicious. Better than Impossible Food.
I've never had either, actually. But, I think it is funny here, being in Taiwan, like the difference in like people's willingness to eat things like tofu and stuff. Whereas like in the United States, it's like if you eat vegetarian in general, but also like if you're eating these fake meats, you're like a soy boy. But in Taiwan, it's just like one of the staple foods is basically like tofu. Stinky tofu is super popular with everybody.
Yeah, well, it's deep fried.
It is delicious. But I mean, you know, people eat dogan or like suji and all this stuff, so. I don't know. Just interesting cultural differences. But maybe that's why so much soy is why we're seeing the sissification of the young men in China.
Well, I like what I said recently. I think that China seems like the only country with the will to live left in the world. Like America's just like, new COVID strain, bring it on, let's all die. Like, realistically, they just pump the same things over and over. Like, oh my gosh, Omicron is here. We have no data. We don't know how dangerous it is. We don't know if the vaccines are effective. Yeah. What should we do? More vaccines.
Go to work, you fucking
and
plebs.
Keep going to work. Keep everything open. Pretend like nothing has changed, and let's not do anything to respond to this.
I saw conservatives literally on Fox News saying that maybe we should have COVID parties, like chickenpox parties, just to spread it around.
Oh my fucking gosh. And, like, there's going to be a strain that has no relation to the previous strains that's going to fucking kill everyone. And unless America gets its shit together and is ready to actually like close the borders and put in quarantine policies to keep the new strains out, they're fucked. They're fucked long term.
They're not ready. I mean,
nobody's ready. The only country left standing, if there were like 90% mortality, ultra contagious variant that had very little protein connections to the previous strains, the only two countries that would be left standing are probably Taiwan and China, and maybe Australia and New Zealand.
Maybe some, like, I know some of like the small Caribbean islands have been pretty decent.
If they have, I'm very curious. I'd like to hear more about that.
Like, one of there was the travel bubble before.
Well, that's South Pacific. That's not Caribbean.
Yeah, that's true. But still, island.
You're talking about Palau?
Yeah, Palau did a pretty good job.
I mean, like,
but
major countries. I was going to say real countries. Major.
You bastard.
Countries with a population of like over a couple million. Let's just say that. I think that like America and the EU, Russia, Africa. Well, Africa is a little bit more complicated. Let's just say like countries who have the capacity to institute careful, methodical COVID anti-pandemic policies. The ones who could have done it all basically dropped the ball and continue to drop the ball and are unwilling to change. They've just lost their will to live.
It's true. I mean, even China is having big problems with COVID right now.
We were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, and Xi'an
and Dongguan now.
Yeah.
Also, but
But
the way they're responding to it is like that's how you respond to it.
Right. You actually
lock
do
the fucking
lockdowns.
city down. And you bring it back to zero instead of being like, oh, it's out of control. We've lost this. Yeah. Let's just let as many people die as possible and keep making as much fucking money as we can.
Well, capitalism. I mean, even if you want to keep making as much money as possible, that's honestly one of the ways to do it, to make sure that you can go back to normal.
Stop the spread.
Yeah, stop the spread totally, and to make sure everyone can go back to normal, so that we don't have, you know, the loss of over 1 million greedy little consumers that can buy all your cheap plastic Chinese shit.
Maybe all these conspiracy theorists are right, and this is just like a ploy to just break down American. I shouldn't say American. Break down like the world, basically. It's because Russia's just as culpable, just as guilty of doing the same fucking thing. This isn't like a West versus East thing. This is just China and everyone else, basically. And not everyone, but realistically, like whatever, Palau, maybe New Zealand, some Australian states, and Taiwan.
Yeah,
that's the only ones I can point to that have actually put in effective quarantine policies that have stopped the spread. Even Israel, which tried to do it before, there was, I know how their Omicron thing broke, because they did institute quarantine rules, and I put those in air quotes, because there was like one Filipino migrant worker. She came in, they're like, you better stay at home. She's like, okay, and she immediately like went on vacation and spread it around the whole country. And they're like, you're a bad woman. Now here's your 0 penalty. And now the entire country is completely filled with Omicron. So that's the point. Like, you have to have a penalty in place. Yeah. And it has to be more than money. It has to be prison. I mean, or it just doesn't work.
Well, I think you need to have state-run quarantine facilities where you don't let people out. Yeah. Because, if you let people... I mean, even if you put like trackers on people's cell phones, you can leave your cell phone at home. I've heard people talking about that. Well, we put GPS tracking on their cell phone.
I just bought a second iPhone off Shopee.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, they could also just like leave their phone at home. It's and a lot of people have 2 phones already.
I got 2 phones. I'm not going to sing the song.
It's okay.
Copyright infringe.
I'm going to play the song on here.
Don't play it. It's not a good song.
I've done it before.
You should play a remix where you sing the chorus.
I got 2 phones.
And that's okay.
All right. Yeah. Should do a FCP cover.
The other thing I just want to mention, I feel like this is a little bit connected with traffic recently. I would be curious to see, because I've made this claim before, and I don't have any evidence, and I'd like to see whether incidents of traffic violations across the world have gone up. And there's objective ways to track this. So in the United States with like traffic cameras and stuff like that, whether people just don't give a shit anymore, whether they're just like, oh, fuck it, you know?
I think it's definitely possible. I think once, especially if you have, there was kind of like a soft lockdown where most people were kind of staying at home, and then you finally get out. I mean,
because I think psychologically they're so connected. You basically have something that puts other people at danger, and people, through social pressure, are trying to force you to do things that protect other people, but you yourself feel like, if they're going to break the rules, why shouldn't I break the rules? And that's basically exactly how traffic rules go, like speeding or running red lights. It's almost the same principle, that if everyone follows the rules, then you feel socially obligated to do so. But once people start breaking it, then you feel like, fuck you. If you're not going to protect me, I'm not going to protect you. Let's all just... keep on the anarchy.
Gives you an excuse. But I mean, I wonder about that in places like Taiwan, because Taiwan, I mean, there's obviously people that don't follow the rules, but most people follow like wearing masks. Like, I went out today, I probably saw 1 person without a mask on.
That is fascinating to me. And the same thing with Xiaoliuoshu, where everyone is wearing a mask and nobody is wearing a helmet driving around. Motorcycles, like the entire island. Like, you could probably count the number of people wearing helmets on... Let's not exaggerate. Probably like less than 100 on the entire island. The island has a population of like 5,000. I'd say that's
plus a numerous tourists. Yeah, the first day we went there, I don't think we saw 1, and then we were kind of counting throughout the days. There was one day when we saw like 6 or something. So yeah, it's not many. I would say 100 might even be an overestimate.
And the fact that there's virtually no risk of COVID, but they're doing it just to follow the social rules. Where there is a very large risk of hurting your fucking brain tissue riding around on a motorcycle without a helmet. And so what? Yeah, people drive slightly more slowly than like mainland Taiwan, but realistically, I mean, people get in accidents.
For sure, yeah, for sure. I mean, people feel like, I think part of that is less about, I mean, one is obviously, like you said, the social like the social. There's no social pressure there because literally the cops will drive by you without a helmet on.
But that's
They
the
don't do
interesting thing,
anything.
that why is there social pressure to wear masks, but there's no social pressure to follow traffic rules or something like that? Like our neighborhood is probably one of the most notorious in Kaohsiung for people just blatantly speeding in the worst possible way. We're doing dangerous maneuvers,
Yeah.
I would say. But people, even the old fucking fishermen who like don't have helmets on
Yeah.
and drive like assholes, those people will be wearing masks typically.
Sometimes below their nose, but yeah. They at least wrap it around their chin while they're smoking cigarettes together.
It's just kind of mind-boggling, and it just goes to show that a lot of this is social pressure for, I don't know, you feel like you're protecting someone, you're protecting yourself. It's a very confusing, complex thing.
It is different not wearing a mask, because wearing a mask is ostensibly to protect yourself, of course, but also to protect other people, whereas wearing a helmet only protects yourself.
Yeah, but not speeding also. That's
I know,
what I'm trying to connect
speeding for sure.
Speeding is something where literally you don't speed only, well, you protect yourself. That's not true. Protect yourself and largely to protect other people, especially around these roads where like it's unlikely you're going to hit another scooter. You're probably going to hit a dog or a pedestrian. So if you're not speeding, you're doing it to protect other people a lot. And nobody does it. So they're not doing it to protect other people in general. They don't really care about the larger population, or they wouldn't be engaging in these practices.
I suppose that's true. I mean, we also have a lot of young people who are just more...
But then why wear the mask? If they have that same attitude, then why bother wearing a mask?
I don't know.
I don't know either, and I think that's fascinating. I think this kind of paradox.
I suppose so. I think there's also there's something attractive about like driving fast and like things like that, but there's not like you're not cool if you don't wear a mask. You're kind of just an asshole.
Some people think it's cool.
Do they?
Americans do, yeah.
Well, Americans do. I'm talking about in Taiwan specifically.
Yeah, well, that's again, it's just a social construction.
For sure.
Nothing to do with whether it's like safe or less safe or it's good for people. It's just like this dynamic within the United States and maybe some countries in Europe where like you're kind of a free thinker. You're post-COVID or whatever.
Yeah. You're a dummy.
I'm already post-COVID.
Yeah, we live in a post-COVID world. Even though my grandpappy and my great uncle and my best friend and my second dog all died from it last week.
It's like, all right, FreeChinaPost, we get it, because that's his new book.
What, post-COVID?
I think post-COVID world, yeah.
That's like, I love when they do that. Like, it was the same as like Cuomo writing that book about how he solved the coronavirus pandemic in New York when he just like murdered a bunch of old people.
FreeChinaPost wrote the post-American world in like the mid-2000s or something like that. It's like what the world would be like without it. It's not like saying that it's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to write a book called Post-Fareed Zakaria World.
Fareed Zakaria is... I lost a lot of respect for him during the 2020 political... I think 2016 also.
Yeah.
I think he did some really... He made some shameless statements. But I would say that overall, I still agree with him on a decent amount of things. And I'm agreeing with him more and more recently. Because he's made some really good points regarding... And I agree with you that there's a lot to criticize. But I'm just saying I agree with him in general on... Number one, on being critical of Elon Musk and this kind of like, let's cut the budget kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And criticizing him also because Elon Musk is like, I can't get any federal subsidies because the subsidies are only for companies that hire unionized workers. And he's like the only car company in the world that doesn't, which means he's like the only one that's exempt from getting these subsidies.
He has to pay like $8 or $10 billion in taxes this year, which is like the first time he's ever paid taxes, and he's like crying about it. I hope he gets fucked.
I hope his hair plugs fall out.
I hope he gets sent to a fucking gym mine in South Africa.
He also has some good points on China in general, and he's not a perfect guy, but he has some interesting points, and he's interesting to listen to. I'll give him that. I think that's a fair.
I've heard him say things that I didn't think were completely fucking idiotic. I'll say that.
I'll say that for just about everybody.
But I don't know. I think he's kind of an elitist, and I find him.
He is an elitist for sure.
I find him kind of annoying. But yeah, just like anyone. I mean, if he says something that's right, just like when Trump occasionally gets things right, I say yes. That's.
I would say of all the people on media, he's probably the only one that. At least the only one on CNN that actually like thinks deeply about political issues, even if he gets the conclusions wrong. at least he has a kind of thoughtful discourse with it in his own head, and not on every issue for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say he does better than 99% of the people on CNN.
Yeah, especially now that Fredo's gone.
Fredo.
Nice.
And that's the sign that. That's the sign that I'm. I can't even finish my sentence.
You need to take some neurotropics, Ari.
Well, that's for sure. I need to get a full night's sleep. I was awoken at 5 a.m. today to clean up piss and shit.
Oh, nice.
I can't get a good night's sleep to like.
At least it wasn't on your bed this time, right?
I got up. Poppy was like scratching at the cage, so I'm like, oh, he's probably hungry. And then I went over to check, and he didn't have any water. So I'm like, I'll give him water. So I brought back his water. I went and lay back down. I'm like, I can go to sleep. And then I hear him scratching. I'm like, what's going on now? I turn the light on. He pissed in his water, and and he pissed on his brand new toy. So I'm like, fuck, man. So now I need to go wash out the thing, get him new water, and clean up the piss, like at 5 a.m. So I did all that. I came back. Now there's shit all over the floor, and I like washed out the rag and everything. Now I gotta clean up the shit.
Oh man, the joys of a small dog.
Actually, this was in 3 steps. First it was the piss, then it was the shit. Then I discovered that he had also pissed on his toy, so I had to take the toy out and clean that off.
You got to get him like one of those little like fake trees that they can pee on. Get him a little piss area.
He has like a piss area. He just doesn't always use it. He's like, especially at 5 a.m. I don't know.
I mean, that's somewhat fair. It hopefully will get easier once you can actually take him outside.
He also misbehaves around me. I think he's got an issue with men, and he likes to be difficult with me.
Poppy needs to learn that men are oppressed, and it's not really appropriate for him to discriminate like
man,
that.
But he was oppressed by other men as a former breeding stud.
Yeah, that it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, there's a lot of that in Taiwan, where dogs are not just afraid of like men, but just afraid of people in general because they've been mistreated, which is unfortunate.
People, I don't understand. Dogs are like the nicest animals I can think of. They're basically like bred and evolved to be our best friends. Like unlike nearly any other animal besides mosquitoes, of course. Just kidding. How could anyone mistreat a dog? I just don't get it. You have to be such a monster. You have to have such an inferiority complex to abuse something that's like already like predisposed to be nice to you.
Yeah, and to listen to you. Well, I mean, people beat the shit out of their kids all the time. So, I mean, is it surprising? I don't know.
Kids, I would say, are more complex because humans are more complex. Dogs are complex in their own way, but I don't know, man.
I mean, dogs have different personalities, and sometimes they catch attitudes and stuff too. But
catching attitudes.
But I don't think that means you should beat on them
or eat them. China.
I think they still eat
Korea.
Dogs in Korea. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
I watched I think it was a Vice video recently on one of the dog festivals in China. It's really weird. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance there too, because they're like, people will have like their pet dogs there, and then next to them is just like these dogs in cages that are going to be little meat pies later.
Here's my poodle, and here's dinner.
It's wild, man.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's the same thing with like, oh, dogs are cute, but pigs are ugly, so we just slaughter them en masse in like a giant Holocaust-like genocide every day. Yeah. It doesn't bother me at the slightest.
Yeah. Pigs are pretty smart too, actually.
I mean, I agree, and I would never eat any of these things ever again.
Yeah, I concur with that. Speaking of eating, I ate some very spicy noodles today that I was told I went to like the Christmas thing, and they told me, I know, gross,
That's just
right?
a joke, because you work at school.
That is true. Doxing me, Ari.
Just edit that whole last 30 seconds.
I'm just kidding. It doesn't matter, but
it does. I shouldn't be saying to that. Just take out this whole thing.
Anyway, so I went to that thing, and they had like this like super spicy noodles, like this instant noodles.
Tabasco.
Yeah, they were like, it's so spicy.
Is that a Korean noodle thing?
Yeah, and they were like,
they're pretty spicy.
They were like, if you can eat the whole thing and not drink water for 5 minutes, we'll give you your money back. So I did, But I still gave them the money because it's like they're trying to raise money for like graduation trips and
I
stuff.
hate to tell you this now, but those things have pork in them.
Oh, sick.
I stopped buying them because they did.
Which one?
Probably the same one, the really spicy Korean one.
The 2 times?
Probably, yeah, I think so. Fuck. It's okay, man. It's like just, you know, like pork brain powder or something.
Yum. All right, well, that's a good note to self.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, so you don't feel bad because you didn't know. Just so you know in the future.
Yeah, because I was like asking them, I was like, does it have meat? And they're like, no, there's no meat in here.
Well, yeah, there's no like meat. It's like pork brain powder.
That's probably what they were thinking. It's like, oh, it's just a.
Well, they don't read the ingredients. They're like, oh, there's no chunks of meat. Like, you think?
Well, they did look at the ingredients, so maybe they lied to me or they read them wrong.
They probably missed it because like typical instant noodle package, there's like 50 fucking things.
Yeah,
in there.
it's true.
They miss it all the time. I don't. Mandarin is not my native language, but I argue with people all the time. I'm like, I know there's meat in here. They're like, no, there's not. I was like, I will go through the list and I will find it for you, and I always prove them wrong because I actually do pay attention.
Also, like with like lard and stuff, people
exactly
don't pay attention to that stuff.
Well, like gelatin's the biggest one.
Oh yeah,
They're like,
gelatin.
well, I'm like, you see the fact that it says that like it's of pig origin, that means that it comes from an animal. Yeah. Like, it's not pig's milk. Let's just be honest.
Pig skin and bone. Yum. Sigh.
Speaking of murder, I just wanted to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse because I was like, I know this is an old story, but I was listening to Rogan talk about this recently, and he like kind of defended him, and I was like, wait a second, is this the precedent we're gonna set for the world? Like, this is okay? So maybe I'm missing something, and like I'm happy, and I don't know if we've discussed this before, but the way I understand it basically is a 17-year-old got his parents' assault rifle and decided to like play cop and basically egged a whole bunch of people on into attacking him, and then as soon as they like came to beat him up, he just emptied out a fucking clip of like 5.56 rounds in their chests.
Yeah, it's really complicated, and I think from what I've heard, it sounds like he probably does have a case for like self-defense because of how the laws are set up.
Yeah, but
in Wisconsin, but I would agree mostly with your
I agree with the notion
story.
that what he did was maybe legal under the technical precepts of like the stand your ground laws,
right.
The very, very loose self-defense rules.
Yes, super loose.
What's interesting
including
is that
allowing a 17-year-old to just walk around with a fucking assault weapon.
That's crazy because what this basically opens up for is like the conservative nightmare, which is the breakdown of law and order. So next time there's like an anti-Trump protest or like let's say a protest outside an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
And somebody comes down there with like let's say a fully automatic class 3 machine gun, like a Tommy gun. And they're like, abortion should be legal. Christ wasn't real. And people like, oh, fuck, let's get this guy. And they come after him. And he just like murders 150 people. And he can be like, I was standing my ground. They had technically attacked me.
Well, you technically can't own a fully automatic machine gun.
Can. You can own a class 3 if you get the stamps for
it.
You
have to get like literal. Well, at least this is how it was in Missouri. Is you had to get approval from the governor.
Well,
it's not easy, is what I'm saying.
Not,
but I get your point.
It's not.
Like, you could go down there with an AR-15 or like an SKS with a 50-round drum.
You could get a 50 caliber gun and just start
That's
firing off into a giant crowd of people. If they are like, let's get him, and they come at you.
It's true.
So Joe Rogan's is like, well, they hit him with the skateboard, so like he had the right to murder all of them, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty big escalation. The other thing is like he went down there to like fucking defend a Piggly Wiggly or something. It's like I agree, like especially when it comes to like private businesses, yeah, there shouldn't be looting and you shouldn't be burning down people's private businesses, but it's also not, you're not a fucking cop, dude. It's not your job to go, that's the cop's job.
Even if it was, let's say somebody is trying to burn down a Piggly Wiggly, that cop would lose his fucking job and probably still be tried for murder if he just shot someone trying to burn down a building. Like,
yeah, well, depends if they're black, but maybe. It's possible. We've seen a lot of cops get away with a lot of violent crimes recently. So
but actually, this sets the threshold even below police. So for police, you have to like feel that your life is threatened, and like that threshold is now so loose that like if you're a weakly little 17-year-old and you're like, well, you know, he threw a skateboard at me and I thought he was gonna kill me, so I just like pumped off rounds into the crowd. Like that's fully justified. Now, well then, the next time there's like an anti-Trump protest and somebody just like plows a fucking Jeep Wrangler through a group of people because they were like shouting at him, threatening things, then that's technically legal under the stand your ground law.
Well, DeSantis literally did successfully passed a law basically saying that it's okay to run over protesters. So, I mean, that's the way they're going, which is it is interesting calling themselves like the Law and Order Party.
Yeah, because they're basically calling for the breakdown of law and order and vigilante justice and complete immunity for anyone who feels in the least be threatened. And also in terms of individual responsibility, the notion of like all the liberals are pussies.
Yeah.
But this is basically like if you feel, let's say somebody's like, I'm gonna beat your ass, dude, and you're like, fuck that, and you just blow someone's head off.
Yeah.
It's like whoever pulls out their gun first and shoots the other one because they felt threatened is technically in the right. That's not the party of like individual responsibility. That's the party of
like Wild West.
Yeah, complete anarchy is what it is.
Yeah.
Whoever pulls out their gun first. That's not anarchy. That's not law and order. That's just complete anarchy.
Yeah.
That's not individual responsibility and like making sure that your own personal protection is the most important thing. That's just like whoever gets lucky enough to pull out their gun first in this dispute. So
yeah,
this is like a sad sign of like the America of the future when you have Joe Rogan, who on one hand claims to be a leftist here, basically supporting complete anarchy, and claims to be in support of law enforcement and law and order, again in favor of complete anarchy.
I think it's also really pretty disgusting how like people are holding him up as a hero. Like I get people who are like saying like making the argument that like actually technically within the law he was allowed to do this. Now I think that there should be a conversation like we just had that follows that, saying like, do we want this to be the new fucking normal? But
yeah, calling him a hero is insane.
I think like they just did TPUSA or whatever, their big conference, the America First conference or whatever the fuck it's called.
I don't understand all these leftist acronyms.
It's a right-wing fucking propaganda conference. TPUSA stands for Toilet Paper USA. No,
typical leftist.
I forget what they're called. It's Turning Points USA. It's just some fringe right-wing like nonsense peddling outlet on the internet. Anyway,
I hear the people screaming for Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, bastard!
But they had him on, and they were like he comes out, and they're like, it looks like a fucking WWE wrestling event. They're just like shooting off like
Donald J.
fire. Yeah, they're just like Kyle Rittenhouse, boom, 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 like shooting off these cannons.
Just showing the videos of him like being like, no, don't kill me, and then shooting off into the crowd of people.
Another thing that I think is,
don't hit me with your skateboard.
The other thing that people fucking do that really annoys me is they talk about, I guess one of the guys that he killed was a convicted like sex offender.
That's what Joe Rogan was saying.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, wait. So do we now have like automatic death penalty for pedophiles?
You get to be judge, jury, and executioner just because you decided to. Yeah, it's like, what the fuck, dude?
So
like
he happened to kill like a convicted criminal.
Yeah, as if he knew that. Like that's the other thing is like, yeah, I'm sure he knew that. By the way, if you're this big like conservative like defender of women and like of the American way, there's a video of Kyle Rittenhouse like beating the shit out of a girl at his school. So it's
really?
It's like, get the fuck out of here.
Let's post that link.
All right, I'll find it. He's also wearing American flag Crocs in the video.
He's obviously like a disturbed child, and the fact that he went across state lines with a gun right there, like he should have gone to prison for that.
It's technically what I heard is that he didn't cross state lines with a gun. He like crossed state lines and then was given the gun by like his uncle or something. But again, this is like, it's really complicated, and the media has done on both sides, and I don't like to do both sidesism, but they've both done a horrible job covering this thing. They absolutely didn't talk about what the local laws are, so then people like,
it doesn't matter. I think the main part of the I get what you're saying. Like, but I think the legal arguments are not as important as the overall argument whether it's okay for like a mentally disturbed child to be given a gun and then just go egg on a group of people until they threaten to beat them up and then just murder a crowd of people, whether or not they're Antifa or fucking anti-Trumpers or pro-Trumpers or whoever. Like,
we shouldn't be gunning down people in the street.
Yeah, and then saying that it's totally legal, like if you felt the slightest bit threatened. That literally just like the basis of anarchy. If you can just claim you felt threatened and kill whoever you want, then this is literally the end of the ordered America. This is the end of law and order. So please stop lecturing me about this shit.
Yeah. Well, there's also more and more leftists that are getting armed, so that it will. I mean, will lead to this, and I think
it's gonna lead to a fucking civil war, man. I think America is going straight down.
I don't think it'll be like a real full-on civil war, but I think there at some point will probably be an uptick in violence. But I hope not. I hope people start to come together over something. We need to
China.
But speaking of things that we called way before they happened, I don't know if you remember the article I wrote about the Texas abortion ban, that law, speaking of vigilantism as well, that vigilante law, I literally said this in the article. I said that this could lead to basically like blue states banning guns essentially via the same principle, saying like anyone who sells someone a gun or gun manufacturers that like sell the gun, that basically if anyone in that state could basically go and sue them in court. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're talking about doing now in California.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, it's that might be the way that, just like when we talk about like how like right wingers are like basically allowed to carry guns anywhere in America now, and like they're like loosening these gun laws.
I mean, everyone is.
Depends on the state, but the way that the way that you get these gun bans is often put guns in the hands of black people, at least historically speaking.
Oh heck
you,
yeah, bro.
You look at the reason why California has
Even
these.
Though being black is socially constructed.
It is. We had this conversation last night.
As is being white.
Yeah.
As is being Christian.
Definitely. But the reason that they have such strict gun laws in California is because of every Republican's favorite president. Shut the fuck up. Everyone's favorite Republican president, Ronnie Reagan, the classic actor.
Ronnie the Rat.
Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666, folks, look into it. Number of the beast. But he introduced a lot of these gun laws because like Black Panthers were starting to arm up and like carry around shotguns and like stop taking shit from the police. And so he's like, whoa, we don't like when the black people have the guns. And so they introduced like a bunch of strict gun laws. There's your fucking Second Amendment Republicans for you guys. But I think we might see something similar with
let's just say on the record,
getting armed.
This podcast is pro guns. I think we would both agree.
I talk about it all the time. I fucking love guns. But I think if you want to continue to have guns legal and not live in a fucking anarcho state, you have to have one very responsible, very intelligent gun owners, and you need to be very careful about what you sell. And you need to have things like background checks that 90% of the country agrees with, including like over 80% of NRA fucking members. So like
not Kyle Rittenhouse.
Well,
I don't know how that uncle is not like legally responsible. Like I don't understand how our legal system is so fucked up that no laws were broken, that somebody's just like, here's 17-year-old, go be a vigilante,
have a gun. Well, the thing is they might, some of those things might start be getting prosecuted, because there was just a recent school shooting and both of the parents were arrested because their text messages basically like the parents are one joking about like school violence with the kid, which is fucked, but they also, the mom, they had to go to school because he was like doing like these violent drawings and like saying fucked up shit. They went there and the school was saying, please take your son home today and like deal with this. And they were like, no, he needs to stay at school. And later he like did the shooting.
So he had the gun with him?
I guess. They did it. I mean, obviously the school didn't know, but
how did they not, like, search him?
After the mom after she left, she texted him like, "Don't do it, son," or something.
What the fuck? Yeah, they were definitely like in on that.
It's a crazy case, and they fled immediately after he did the shooting. They fled the city. But
damn, I hope they're fucking charged as accomplices. If they are, I
think they're gonna get some sort of charges. I don't whether what actually happens, we'll see. And I need to look into it more, but just like doing a brief reading on that was crazy. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, if there are proposed laws in some states of, if your kid gets your gun because you don't lock it up right, then you're held at least partially responsible. And I think that makes sense.
It does.
If you want to be a gun owner, you should be a responsible one.
And if you give a gun to a kid that's basically going to participate in a riot, so that he can bring the gun to a riot, for fuck's sake, like that guy needs to be charged with whatever the same revised laws are that remove this basically anarchy exemption for anyone who's too much of a pussy.
I'm so scared of the situation I put myself in.
Yeah, just if you're really that scared, don't go to a fucking riot.
I tend to agree.
And if you're really defending it, then why don't you just like stand in front of the Piggly Wiggly, not like run down the streets with an assault rifle?
Yeah, I mean, he was close enough to cops that like right after he shot a bunch of people, he like ran into the arms.
No,
of the
I
cops,
watched that video.
And the cops didn't even.
They're like, get out of the way.
Yeah, they're just like,
we're trying to kill people here.
there's a lot of black people we need to entrap. That's it's frustrating.
I feel like race. I didn't see in that video, at least I didn't see any black people. I don't think race was like a part of that.
No, it was.
Did you see any?
No, it wasn't. And this is again part of.
But being black is socially constructed, as is being white, as is being police.
Well, it's part of the problem with the media and why they like try to divide us so much is like that a lot of articles, and this is
we're calling him a white supremacist.
Well, yeah, or we're saying they didn't outright say it, but they made it sound like maybe the victims were black. But yeah, I don't particularly think that Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. He said he's a supporter of Black Lives Matter, which is interesting.
He's just a weird fucking 17-year-old.
He's a 17-year-old. That's the point. Is he's a child.
Which is why, like, anyone who gives him a gun should be charged with a manslaughter at the very least, and probably face like 50 to 60 years in prison for all the people that are dead now, as a direct consequence of that guy's fuck up.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
That guy should die in prison, honestly.
The problem is that you don't have. I mean,
for giving a 17-year-old
Rittenhouse
a
didn't
fucking
technically
gun.
He didn't break any laws technically. So if you can't charge him, I don't think you can charge the uncle. But I mean I agree with you. Obviously.
I think Rittenhouse should honestly be in a mental institution, because like what kind of 17-year-olds like I'm gonna go stir up violence so that I can shoot in a crowd of people tonight. Like that dude. Honestly,
I don't know if that's 100% fair, and I shouldn't be being this fair to this boy. But I think he probably, just like a lot of Americans, a lot of gun-owning Americans, thinks I'm gonna be a fucking hero. I'm a Wild West, everyone owns a lot of people that own guns have these fantasies of like, if the bad guy ever comes in, I'm gonna put like 4 in his chest and then kill his partner too, and then I'm gonna blow the smoke off the fucking barrel.
This wasn't his house. This is no like.
It was
castle doctrine. There's literally no argument. He was running down the street with an assault rifle. He was looking to kill people. Like if you watch the video, for fuck's sake,
probably.
like he's like not really trying to get away. I mean, if you actually watch the video and like stop giving me all these arguments about like text messages and transcripts, just watch the fucking video.
Yeah.
That dude wanted blood on his hands. He's a 17-year-old who wanted to go out like a hero, killing a bunch of fucking people, and he succeeded in that. And now he needs to probably spend the next 30 to 40 years working out what the fuck is wrong with him in a mental institution. And his uncle deserves to be in prison probably until he dies for handing this fucking mentally disturbed child an assault rifle.
I don't totally disagree with you. I think, I don't know.
And if you don't agree with me, then don't pretend you're in favor of law and order. You are technically in favor of a mild form of anarchy. So yeah, if you really like Somalia and Afghanistan, if those are your ideals for the future of America, then by all means, let's just keep going this way.
Hell yeah.
Talk about successful states.
Oh yeah. Well,
Mogadishu, USA.
I'm interested to see how the U.S. progresses.
Speaking of Afghanistan, Pakistan is holding a conference of what they call a conference of Islamic nations to basically ask the world to help Afghanistan because they're having like winter famines right now, and the Afghan government. I watched it on YouTube. The comments are. I should never read YouTube comments.
No, you shouldn't, man.
But they are insane. Fucked. They're just like, wow, if the U.S. government didn't steal all the money from the Afghan, it's like, wait a second. This is aid money that was supposed to go to the Afghan people that was suspended when the Taliban took over the national conference. This was never Afghan. It was Afghan money. It was not Taliban money, and it wasn't Afghan money to begin with. It was Western aid money that was supposed to help the Afghan government, which no longer exists, by the way.
No.
So, like, please stop giving me those arguments.
Don't ever go in the comments, Mud. I did it on like a video yesterday. And after like 3 of them, I was like, bye, I'm out of here.
What do you think about that, though?
What do I think about what? About
that notion that the United States, because, like, this is the same thing with Iran, that basically, or North Korea, that they use all the money that they have to do offensive weapons spending. They like buy a shitload of weapons, and then like, our government's broken, we can't help the poor people, and because of the American sanctions regime, our people are starving. So give us more money, or you're responsible for our people's deaths.
Yeah, I think the issue is I think we'd have much better cases in a lot of these countries for arguments if we hadn't like killed civilians and done like these bombing campaigns. But yeah, obviously on its face, it's absurd. I mean, obviously we haven't done bombing campaigns in all these countries, but yeah, I find it a bit frustrating because I think if we held ourselves to a slightly higher moral standard, then I think we'd have a better argument. But I also do think that yeah, obviously it's nonsense. It's nonsense to put all the blame on America.
I had to clean up Jordan's mess.
Sorry.
Just kidding.
I made a little mess.
Yeah, I really don't buy that argument. And like, since the very beginning, I feel terrible for the people of Afghanistan who oppose the Taliban, but they basically, it's the Afghanistan is a very complex state, but to a large extent, like, they wanted this regime, and now that they have the regime and the Western aid money has stopped flowing, they're like, wait a second.
Well,
There's, of course, there are Afghanistan is a complex country, and there are millions of people who didn't want the Taliban back in. But overall, like, they did very little to stop the takeover. Like, the army basically gave up immediately, which was composed of regular Afghan civilians, and that country is one of the most heavily armed countries in the world. And they basically allowed it to take place. They tacitly allowed the Taliban to take over, and they should have realized that would mean the end of Western aid money.
I wonder if they felt like there was many other options.
Yeah, the Chinese government. So now it's not the Americans' responsibility. If the Chinese and Pakistani government wanted the Taliban back in so badly, let Pakistan fucking pay for it.
I mean, I tend to agree with that, but
Since Pakistan accepted billions of fucking dollars in US aid from Obama and the Bush administration over fucking decades, helping us quote unquote deal with the Taliban there by basically siphoning off all the money to the private accounts of Pervez Musharraf and his associates in order to help us in zero fucking ways with dealing with the Taliban. Let them take part of their aid money if they're so concerned about the Taliban civilians. Like, I feel terrible. Let's ship in food. Let's ship in medicine. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. We are not fucking giving them a penny of like cash aid money so that the Taliban can use it to restock their weapons supplies. Fuck that shit.
I agree with that. I think that you should never sanction food or medicine. Which
there's no sanction.
But I'm just saying that the U.S. does that at certain times.
That's not relevant.
I think that's
to this at all, because the U.S. is not sanctioning them at all.
Then I agree with you.
They're just cutting off cash aid to the Taliban, and they're like, oh, well, now we're in famine, so.
Yeah, ship over food. I totally agree with your point on that. Yeah, it's bullshit. But
if they have a complaint, then Pakistan and China should fucking take the ball. Since they wanted the Taliban in so bad, this is your fucking problem to deal with now.
I think that is probably something that should be a talking point moving forward. Is for like people like the EU and the Biden administration to go, yeah, you supported this. Why don't you give some aid money? But of course, China will say, "Oh, we're just a small developing nation. we're just little guys." And then turn around like next week and they'll be like, "We'll fucking nuke you off the face of the map." Like that's they have inside China is two wolves. One of them is a small little baby developing country that doesn't want to get hurt too bad, and the other one is a nuclear armed giant that's trying to take over the entire planet.
Yeah, considering that China now has the second largest military in the world, and it basically has made clear their aim to become a global superpower and surpass the United States, I think they can shut the fuck up about them being a developing state. Let's just be real about this.
I tend to agree. I did see something interesting about China, that they might be facing like a real big problem with like their steel industry collapsing, and partially because the housing market has collapsed or is collapsing. Because, I mean, everyone knows this is like almost a trite point at this point, but like there's the classic like Vice documentary where they go to China and like there's just like ghost towns of like millions and millions of housing.
Oh, you mean
houses.
New York City?
Just so they can basically prop up their GDP.
Oh, you mean Trump Tower?
Continue to put up these idiotic numbers of like 8-9% fucking year-on-year GDP growth. But yeah, some of those chickens might be coming home to roost. We'll see. I don't
We'll
know.
see. I mean, it's disturbing, but I think the United States has been engaged in a lot of the same thing. I've heard that
Yeah, that's probably true.
most of like the like ultra tall towers that were built in the last 20 years in New York are completely fucking empty right now.
Lol. Yeah. Well, it's this obsession with fucking growth, man. We can't just like accept what we have and try to like improve that or like maybe put our
iPhone 12, okay, folks. You don't need the new one.
I need the 13 Pro.
It's got a much better camera.
I saw Samantha has the iPhone 13. I want one too.
That bitch.
Oh shit, boy. All right, you got anything else?
Yeah, I got several more.
All right, let's go. I gotta work soon.
You've got 42 minutes. Putin and his demands. So we've been talking about that buildup, the military buildup at the Ukrainian border,
Yeah.
and basically Putin went on in like a 3-hour tirade, basically saying that the United States and the West needed to, like right now, absolutely make clear that there would be no further expansion of NATO, and that the United States of 1992 had lied to the Soviet Union, basically implying that he, as Russia was like the continuation of the Soviet Union,
Right.
and that Russia should feel threatened, which again is completely fabricated because the original expansion of NATO, I mean, NATO was created to curb expansion and aggression, and basically by amassing your troops at the border and being like, give me what I want or I'm going to aggressively invade my neighbor, is the epitome of why NATO was created in the first fucking place. It's really ironic. But from what I hear, most Russians are not in favor of any invasion or occupation of Ukraine. And for that reason, because Russian economic and support numbers for any invasion of Ukraine are extremely low right now, he's not going to do it because he's in a precarious place right now.
Yeah, I tend to lean that way, and I hope that that's right, because obviously there's going to be a tremendous loss of life if there is an invasion. I do somewhat get the point of or the that kind of frame of view that he might have, where he sees NATO expanding, but it's not like NATO's going to invade Russia.
Who gives a fuck? Russia does not have an inherent claim to the entire Eastern Europe sector to have their exclusive sphere of influence. If he doesn't like it, then he can go try and coax those nations into his sphere of orbit by not amassing 200,000 troops at their border and not shelling them for 7 years at a time and not illegally annexing part of their territory. If he's so concerned about these countries moving in the Western sphere of influence, maybe he should stop bringing down jets through the Belarusian leaders. Like, their behavior has been so atrocious over the past 15 years. And then he's like, well, the Western powers just keep doing. Shut the fuck up. You are a monster. And you wonder why people run away from you. It's because you're a fucking monster. Let your party step down, have free elections, and close the United Russia Party. And completely take yourself out of politics. And let's see if all of these countries, and by the way, pull up the 200,000 troops off the border and let Crimea be an independent state. Let them have another referendum. Okay,
a legitimate one.
Yeah, a legitimate one. And it doesn't fucking matter anyways. Like,
no, I mean, it's obviously nonsense. It's the same thing you see out of China, but that's why why I'm slightly heartened to see more and more countries pulling away from them. The problem is that if America doesn't get its shit together, then we have to rely on the EU to be the arbiter of like actually trying to pull people in the right direction. Not that America does a really great job, but
and
I don't trust America for shit anymore, honestly.
Neither do I. Well, I trust them more than the EU. But the scariest thing about this. Hang on one second. I forgot what I was ranting about.
That water is like almost black. About Russia.
I had a really good point to make, and I totally forgot what it was. The Europeans. Okay, the clearest way I have to know that the Europeans aren't serious about Russia is the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And I think, personally, that the number one reason why Russia won't invade right now, besides even like the public relations issues and the fact that Putin would face sinking support, is because if he did that, it would almost certainly call into question Nord Stream 2. Because if there's a war, if there's a war in that region, it threatens the natural gas supplies in the whole area, and there would definitely be a whole raft of new sanctions regimes, which I'm almost sure now would possibly include, because there would be Republican support for that, thanks to everyone's favorite Ted Cruz, for sanctioning the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which would probably catch the Europeans in, and would mean that they would probably call it off before its completion.
No, Nord Stream, I'm Ted Cruz, man.
And Russia wants to keep Nord Stream 2 like at all costs right now. So they will not do anything until Nord Stream 2 is like in operation and stable.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that.
I think it's all bluster. That's my take.
Yeah,
I also still think the Europeans are full of shit.
I somewhat do. I'm quite hard. We talked about Baerbock, and I'm pretty heartened by her rhetoric, but I would like to see some actions. Obviously.
I like her too, and I would like if she was in favor of pulling out of Nord Stream 2. I can't remember what she said because we did watch the debate. I can't remember what she said about Nord Stream 2.
Go watch it, folks. Ari, go watch it on the YouTubes.
You go watch it and remind me, please.
I'll think about it. I got YouTube videos to post because I've been trying to do a game stream. I was literally
Lame stream, the lame stream media.
Lame stream on Twitch.
I was because I was literally getting ready to start actually I had already started the stream on when you called me to do the pod, when you called me from downstairs.
Well, we don't have walkie-talkies yet, so how am I supposed to contact you?
You could yell through the floorboards. I could. I used to. Have I told you this story that I used to live in an apartment and I would like run around and there was a lady that used to do that. She'd bang on our floor with a broom, and then
when I was a kid too.
Then she threatened to beat up my mom when she was pregnant.
That never happened to us, but we also had a crazy lady who broomed the ceiling.
Yeah, my dad was like, "If you touch my wife,
I'll touch you."
I don't like that. We don't like that.
Two more quick things. One of them was about the Omicron study, which I referenced. So the Omicron study that I referenced previously was saying that the efficacy of the vaccine was 22.5%. I actually looked at the data of that quote unquote preprint study. Okay. If anyone can guess, I asked Jordan to guess how many people were involved in this study that all of the media is quoting right now. 12 fucking people.
Yeah.
Okay. And the numbers aren't like, this isn't a double-blind clinical study with the vaccine to actually see the efficacy numbers. Those are calculated based on antibody numbers. So that being said, we still don't know anything about the efficacy of the existing vaccines, or very little at least, about the efficacy of these vaccines versus Omicron, except that they suck. Okay, so rather than being cautious,
you're talking about in terms of stopping the spread.
Talking about in general.
I mean, we don't know anything, but you saying they suck. We don't know that they suck about like preventing hospital and death.
Preventing symptomatic disease, which is directly related to hospitalization and death.
Well,
in any case,
to some degree. I mean, people still get breakthrough cases, but because they're vaccinated, they much less.
I can guarantee you, nobody gets hospitalized or dies without having symptomatic disease.
That's true. No, that's true. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that it's still far less. You can still get symptomatic disease and it'd be pretty mild because you got vaccinated. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to make it clear.
In any case, we don't have any data about that, period, whatsoever. And the data we do have is extremely limited to this 12-person study. So, that being said, rather than take the cautious route and being like, well, we don't know anything about Omicron, so for now, let's take out every precaution to make sure that Omicron doesn't sweep across the world. All the governments in the world did jack fucking shit, and they just like, oh, let's keep pumping out the same vaccines and do nothing else. Because...
Come on, Ari. They stopped travel from South Africa like 2 weeks after it was already in America.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, travel bans, I think that travel bans are fucking stupid. What you need is automatic, penalty-driven quarantine procedures on any person coming in or out of the country, period, with no exceptions, government-run, and absolutely no leaks in or out.
Yeah.
And that is how you actually stop these diseases from coming into the country, like you can see with Taiwan and their open, brilliant data. I talk shit about Chen Shizhong all the time.
Yeah.
That is one thing that they've done very fucking well. So instead of, because again, Omicron is like a really big unknown here, instead of being cautious, they're just like, nah, let's just wait and see.
Omicron party.
Yeah. And well,
please don't lecture me about vaccines. Like we don't know. And we probably won't know for years, actually.
Mr. Science is recommending that people don't go visit their families, but he hasn't said anything about
you mean Joe Rogan?
Keeping your slave ass at your little job to make sure that the capitalist piggies get to keep making their money.
Heck yeah, bro.
That's going to continue.
Thanks, Fauci.
One last thing. The Chile election. So the leftist won.
Yep, I saw that.
What do you think?
A lot of people seem happy. He said that Chile. The classic thing is like neoliberalism was born in Chile, and that's now they're saying that's where it's going to die. And I hope that's true because I don't like neoliberalism. But I don't know. I think
kicked out of the WTO.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to tend to think that this is going to be like some like I saw both sides. I saw takes where they're like, it's a fucking revolution in Chile. They're gonna be like this, like shining communist example. And then I saw other people being,
whoa. This is why Twitter's a joke. First of all, there's a divided parliament, so it's not going to be anything of the sort.
I think that
not only that, he is not a communist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly exactly. But I've also seen the other side that is saying that they're gonna like go down and become Venezuela.
Those are both nonsense.
No, they are.
Because,
yeah.
Again, there's a fucking divided parliament. Number one. Number two.
Yeah.
He's not a fucking communist.
No, he's socialist. I would say, at least in name. I also don't know like all of his policies. So we'll see. And again, like you said, divided parliament. So like, what are they going to actually be able to push through? And
they're like, we're going to reform the pension system and increase taxes on certain groups of people. And they're like, Venezuela.
Yeah, those sound like good things as long as depending on what groups of people they are. I think it is, in my personal opinion, is that I think it's much better than having the Nazi win, and it's also good because they're probably going to redraft the Constitution. I saw there's a picture of them like burning the old Constitution.
They were already doing that. And
why
they might have new elections next year.
Right, but what I'm saying is that it's better to have him like kind of in charge of that as opposed to the Nazi.
I don't know what role the president has in redrafting, and I don't know if he has any role at all, actually.
He might not, but I think that even just him as a figurehead kind of leading that, he has more sway as like the actual de facto president. So I view that as like good, but yeah, I'm not going to like jump the gun and pretend like it's going to be all good, or I don't know what it's going to be like, but
typically constitutional redrafts have no role whatsoever for the executive.
Yeah. But I think there's at least some rhetorical power there and some power in being able to push at least his party in certain directions.
I feel like constitutional redrafts shouldn't be partisan in general, though.
I mean, I agree with that, but inevitably they will be. I hope it is as little as possible, but I think. Again, I'm just happy the Nazi lost, and I hope this guy does kill neoliberalism, and I hope that he pushes for some good worker first policies. But we'll see. Been reading a lot about feminism in China recently.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I knew a little bit about it. I wouldn't call myself an expert.
Jordan is a self-claimed expert on feminism in China now.
That's me.
But yeah, I downloaded some books, hopefully to read a little bit more about it. But it's been very fascinating. But all of that, I mean, I had been reading up on it before, but part of the reason that I kind of like re-sparked my interest was because recently the government was saying like the average people shouldn't be protesting for like feminism. They should essentially let the government handle it because the government's going to do a good job. The government, which there are 0 women on the Politburo, and there's only 25% women in the legislature, and we've seen what's happened with all these like Me Too cases that just get swept under the rug, especially if they affect the CCP directly.
They're definitely need to include more women, but lately it's becoming harder and harder for me to talk shit about the Chinese Communist Party. Although I'm totally anti-totalitarianism, I think the fact that China is like one of the only countries in the world that still expresses kind of a will to survive,
I guess in some ways, but it's
is in some ways heartening. While I totally disagree, and I think that they should step down and democratize, and I think that the Chinese Communist Party is time limited. I think that not everything they're doing is horrible.
I mean, that's true. When they go after like people like Jack Ma and stuff,
and when they penalize, I liked recently that they were penalizing local officials who basically allowed the spread to take place. And unlike Taiwan, who's just like, golden parachutes. Oh, because you supervised our failure, the best way to continue in the future, doing like the old American Wall Street style
2008
consultancy. Yeah. where like you fuck up and you're just given a get out of jail free card and been like, well, now that you've made a mistake, we know you learned from it and you're never gonna do that bad thing again.
As the person who crashed the train and killed everyone on board, you're the best person to pilot it in the future.
The Chinese Communist Party, one of the reasons that I totally disagree with authoritarianism in general is because of the complete lack of accountability. And you can see that in the Peng Shui case.
Yeah.
That basically people are generally not held accountable for their actions if they're high enough in the party and have the right connections, because you don't have this kind of openness. On the other hand, I think in general they have the right attitude in terms of holding people accountable, whereas in open societies like Taiwan and America, when people do make these mistakes, nobody gets held accountable anyway. So it's interesting that like for a sexual assault case, then yeah, of course here they'll be held responsible, but for like if you don't commit a crime, if you make some mistake that inadvertently kills a shitload of people, it's like meh.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly in China as well, there's a lot of overlooking of corruption if you have the right connections.
Certainly.
But yeah, it's
attitudinally, I just agree with that. But yeah, listen, there's no like bastion, and I am certainly no pro CCP person. But I think that the fact that they're actually willing to do that, like whereas in other countries they would just be like, well, he's done better than other countries.
Yeah. I would say in China, a lot of times it's kind of just them like scapegoating people, but I would have to look at specific examples. But yeah, I definitely agree with your sentiment in like these other countries, like in Taiwan and America. They obviously, corruption is also allowed to run rampant, and
let's call it out when we see it, folks. Corruption is bad.
And the way that you deal with some of this corruption is you make sure we can get new parties by passing ranked choice voting.
Yeah, everyone, get on that right now. Start pushing your state government. If you have any referendum laws in your state, start pushing for ranked choice voting ASAP.
Get those signatures.
To eliminate the two-party monopoly in the United States and get some real candidates out there. Because the two-party monopoly is literally what's killing, I would say, most of the world right now.
It's a big part of it. I would agree with that.
If you look at all the major problems endemic to the United States, to Europe, to Taiwan, all of these major society-crushing problems, and the issue that the parties within those countries are unwilling to tackle them because basically they don't have to. There's no adequate competition that will challenge them on these things. They formed a kind of cartel of power. If we break the two-party monopoly that's present in most of these countries, it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed to work, folks. The FDA has not evaluated these claims, but it's guaranteed to work.
100% guaranteed. That's an FCP guarantee for you, folks. That is not a legally binding guarantee, but it is one.
Logically, if you have parties that can come in and take on these specialist issues and put pressure on, even if you keep those two major parties and put pressure on them to actually take stances and be forced to deal with these so that they don't have to face pressure from external parties, there's like no logical reason why you wouldn't have much better outcomes on all of these endemic issues in these countries that have never been dealt with historically.
Yeah, I would say it's not like a magic bullet that's going to fix everything, but it's certainly going to allow for a lot more room for improvement. And I think you can
money out of politics.
Right. I would like to see data or like look into data on this, but I feel like that has happened somewhat to some degree in Taiwan with like at least in the Pan Green camp, where there's like more ability to pull the DPP to, whatever it is, like the pro independence. And I don't think they're obviously not going to pull them all the way to declaring independence or anything like that. But at least on some issues, it allows for more room for debate. Like if you look at the referendum that just happened, obviously the DPP was no on all four, but some of the smaller parties were like yes on some and no on others. So at least allows for more debate while still holding true to like the overarching principles that like your whatever, even if like you were talking about like the two major parties, at least allows for like some overlap where you can work together, but also some debate to happen, as opposed to just this is the party ideology and everyone get in fucking line. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's deeply needed in a number of countries, or every country around the world that doesn't already have it.
And money out of politics.
Money out of politics. Yeah, that's like I would say those are that and Medicare for all are like my top three big things.
I agree with you on those. Let's start our own party. We call it the Holy Trinity Party. Money out of politics, ranked choice voting, Medicare for all.
Hell yeah. Sounds great. We got to find a name for it, though. I guess the Holy Trinity Party works. I was going to say we can't call it FCP.
The Devil's Triangle.
Oh, hell yes, brother.
We just went the total opposite
The
direction.
the DTP Party.
The DTF Party. Devil's Triangle Foundation.
All right. I like it. I like where this is going.
What does DTP stand for?
Devil's Triangle Party.
Oh.
All right. I think we got it, folks.
I think DT Party. Like FC pound.
Yeah, because we definitely can't use Free China Party. That would be problematic in America.
By the way, I haven't checked the blockchain recently. Has anyone bought any FC pounds yet?
I've gotten requests for them. We're gonna have to
you?
we're gonna have to work it out, but yeah, we'll see about that.
The blockchain will be updated at the end of January, folks.
Yeah,
and if you've purchased any non-fungible tokens, well, let's just say you'll have to wait for them to be distributed until the blockchain is repaired.
Yeah, we're also thinking about creating some NFTs, like some
What we're thinking about, they've already been created.
some non-factual tokens, which is what they all are, really. Like, let's be honest, they're all socially constructed.
Non-Fruit Loops.
Non-Fruit Loop tokens. All right, I'm gonna have to bust out the MS Paint and start drawing some beautiful pictures. I do have all the the FCP. Nope. I have all the FCP memes that I've used over the years. We could make those into NFTs too.
I think we got to create new ones from scratch. You just gotta have like wild cartoons.
Yeah, some of the ones I've made before, I don't think I can post.
I have some that definitely can't be posted.
Yeah, I know one of the ones that involves a certain sheep-like animal from Hong Kong. Maybe
There's another character in that too.
Yeah, there is. There's one from right next door. That is a picture.
He's got that look on his face.
You know what's up when you see that. Yeah, I have the one of Wolf Blitzer that you didn't let me post. You don't remember that one?
No.
The one where he's eating a.
I will make many.
You rightly
NFTs.
told me not. I think you rightly told me not to post that because I think I would have gotten labeled as a alt-righter.
Well, you are.
Well, I don't have a response. For
I
that.
call it like I see him.
Well, I do believe that race is socially constructed.
I mean, it is, as is religion, as is reality. What do you think of simulation theory?
I think it's interesting. I mean, we'll never just like any sort of religion or
all
that
stream.
stuff. We'll never really fucking know, you know. So
There's a new Matrix movie. Speaking of which,
yeah, I heard about that.
Keanu Reeves is getting old and non-binary.
Keanu Reeves laughed in the face of some guy talking to him about Bitcoin and NFTs the other day, which was awesome.
What did he say?
That dude is a fucking king.
What
I'll just show you the video.
He's like, Keanu, what do you think of the new Keanu coin?
I made a new Keanu Reloaded coin, and I would like for you to be in it.
He's like, I want you to sign my new Keanu Rio I bought from the dealership last week. That's a Kia joke, folks, because nobody buys Kias, right? Does Kia still exist in America?
Kia Sonata.
The Kia Sorento, the newest car to get your girlfriend to break up with you.
Here you go.
The newest car to be single.
The Matrix NFT thing that they did for Resurrections just a couple days ago. They made
No.
NFTs,
No.
and there were like 100,000.
Wait, I'm gonna see this.
Site broke like in the first few hours because there were over 300,000 people in the queue trying to buy these NFTs for $50. Think about concept
I like the look on his face.
Yeah.
He's like,
and things that are, that can't be copied, that are easily reproduced. They're not the same, right? It's not paper. I wonder do we get a cut of that? Or no, actually, I don't think we're in them. They probably did other people. You have to take that up with the state.
that are easily reproduced.
I love that. King shit. That is some king shit.
I do like his thing for motorcyclists. As a man who now has a pile of spark plugs he has to carry around with him all the time, I understand.
He also just seems like a nice guy, so I don't know. He's also in Cyberpunk 2077, which I've been thinking about finishing at some point.
Isn't that like a 10-year-old game?
No, Cyberpunk 2077 came out like last year, but it was like so buggy when it first came out.
Time's
like
a flat circle.
half of the
It's 10 years ago.
That is true. Half of the people were like, half of the characters when you first start the game are just like in fucking constant T pose because it's so broken. But I've heard they've fixed a bunch of it. I enjoyed it somewhat, but it wasn't that good.
I enjoyed it a lot.
It was average, but I would like to finish the story just because I'm interested how it turns out. But anyway, I just bought
That's pretty funny though.
I just bought The Witcher, so that's the next game I
Why
want to
would
stream.
you buy that? I've had that on my external hard drive for a long time.
I didn't know that. I was unaware. It was on sale, Steam sale, very cheap. So
They've made a lot of money off that, the producers.
yeah. Well, interestingly enough, it's the same people that made Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red. So
How much did you pay for it?
we brought it full circle. 140 or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like basically nothing. There are a lot of decent games on there. I also downloaded Dead Space, which we should play sometime.
I have Dead Space as well.
I need to start checking with you before I buy these games. Will is trying to get me to play Escape from Tarkov, which is like
No.
that one's online,
Never
so
heard
I
of it.
doubt you have it. But anyway,
Yeah, I think I bought Dead Space 2 in like an Epic sale. Not Epic. What do you call it? Origin. This is an
Oh.
Origin game.
it's also on Steam. Anyway, folks, if you want to see us play all these hot games, we
We're
also
gonna have to
need
wait
to
until next year.
we need to do the Titanic stream at some point too. But you can watch me
Gotta
play.
do all the endings.
You can watch me play over on twitch.tv/FreeChinaPost. I'm stream like 5 times a week, so come over there. I'll answer your questions. You can ask me anything, folks, as long as it's not something that can get me banned. All right, dude. We both got stuff to do here in a minute.
You sure?
I think so. You got any other important things you want to say? Something you want to get off your chest?
There's a lot of shit. Where do I start?
You want to talk about the fact that you were burning Christmas trees outside and dancing around them singing last night? Some sort of pagan ritual?
Not really.
Okay, well, I'll edit that out.
Yeah, there's a few things to edit out here. Yeah, folks, just buy our NFTs. I think they're gonna be very popular. The value of them will like instantaneously go up. I
Yeah.
mean,
Uh,
do you hear that voice outside?
yeah, there's people hanging around where the old temple is.
It's just a very deep voice, an unusually deep voice for this neighborhood.
Yeah. Also, go to our website, disable your ad blocker. Click on all the advertisements that you're interested
That you're
in.
interested in.
The ones that you find interesting and think that you might want to learn more about. Also, patreon.com. That's patreon.com/FreeChinaPost. And you can donate there and we'll send you cool goodies.
That voice.
Yeah, it's very low.
It's very low.
See if I can go get him to sing a song. Sir, could you sing for me? Your voice is mesmerizing. All right, with that,
At the end of January,
what's up?
We're gonna start the new. We're gonna get that new journalist who's gonna start pumping out probably like multiple daily articles regarding Taiwan, China, Hong Kong news.
It'll be good. Yeah, my writing has gone down because I've been
forgot
doing
his
so much
name.
streaming.
Something Poppington.
Yeah, General Poppington.
Oh, I forget his name. I dreamed about it last night, and this
Dream, right?
censor that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
All right, we're out of here, folks. Check out the new journalist, and check out our hot new NFTs. Okay, we love you.
Get
We'll
lots
talk
of
to you soon.
Taiwan updates.
Hell yeah, brother.
I'm just gonna keep talking so we can end this.
FCP 最大.
So just to record like a little thing for the other podcast, it's Ari's fault because I was too lazy to check the audio, make sure it was working. So I'm very sorry to everyone else listening to this for the clipping audio. But if you can make it through, this podcast is pretty funny, and my apologies. And just listen to it anyway. It's like pretty good. The clipping is what it is. But yeah, I strongly recommend it. So just listen to this.
You gonna apologize to me for having to edit that shit, fucker?
I don't think you need to edit it. Just post it as is.
What if you say like or something?
I don't think there was anything bad in there, but now you said it, and now this is going to be included because I have the recording.
I know. I have to edit it, so I gave myself more work. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, but I'm saying I could edit it back in. I could just download the podcast, and I could just put like a repeat of you just saying that for like the first 8 minutes of the podcast.
I don't like that.
I would never do that to my sweet prince.